Hauntings, it seems, can occur just about anywhere, even at water treatment facilities. While most people think of ghosts in old houses or abandoned buildings, the proximity to water has long been linked to unexplained phenomena. Rivers, canals, and reservoirs have carried stories of strange sounds, fleeting shadows, and inexplicable occurrences for centuries. It's not difficult, then, to imagine that even modern plants, built along these waterways to harness and treat their resources, might inherit some of that lingering mystery. According to one Redditor, these types of haunting occurrences are definitely true, with the op claiming to having had their own experiences while working at such a facility. In the post, they stated that they mostly worked nights, and that the crew had eagerly swapped stories about strange happenings around the plant. The faint scent of cigarette smoke drifting through empty rooms, doors that seemed to open and close on their own, and a shadowy figure glimpsed in the headworks window. Rumor had it that an operator who died years earlier still lingered haunting the place. It was noted that the new night worker had also encountered a few odd experiences, though nothing that couldn't be reasonably explained. These experiences made the op curious, as they couldn't help but wonder if others had also had paranormal occurrences while working in similar conditions. This prompted them to pose the question if such happenings were encountered at other water waste facilities, or if this was something unique to their location. At least one reply didn't disappoint. A different Redditor echoed what the poster themselves had witnessed. According to their comment, the facility they worked at was staffed only 10 hours a day, with on-call coverage for the remaining 14. They had learned that 2 contractors had tragically lost their lives during construction in a confined space, the details of which most people could probably guess. Strangely enough, it was the vault where the accident had actually occurred that never caused problems afterward. But while the vault might have been spared, there were plenty of eerie stories from that plant. One night around 3 a.m., someone appeared on the security monitor walking through a process room, even though the lone operator on site had locked every door. Another morning, they arrived to find the old coffee pot brewing a fresh pot of coffee, despite it having no timer or automatic start function. Security logs and camera footage showed no sign of activity. The user related how they had responded to a nighttime call-out when a heavy door, usually jammed and requiring a good shove to open, suddenly flew open on its own. A similar situation happened to another employee when the stubborn locker room door swung open while they were working alone. There were also reports from nearby residents who swore they saw people walking inside the fenced area after hours, but the security footage always came up empty. Even the front gate had a habit of opening and closing by itself, adding to the list of unexplained occurrences that gave the place its haunted reputation. On yet a different Reddit post, a similar story was echoed. According to the op, the plant consisted of several buildings, with the oldest having stood for more than 60 years. The main structure, where op spent most of each shift, was comparatively new, only about 20 years old. The surrounding area, once a thriving hub of industry and agriculture, used to be alive with railroad tracks and travelers riding the freight trains that came and went. In its prime, the region's farms and factories were prosperous, but like all places built on success, it carried its share of darkness. From early conflicts with native peoples to deadly train wrecks and ruthless business dealings in the 1930s and 40s, the ground itself seemed steeped in tragedy. The quiet of the night shift could feel unsettling even on ordinary evenings, the distant clangs and creaks echoing through dimly lit corridors. On one particular night, everything began as usual. Op had arrived around sunset, received the nightly handoff, and started on routine tasks. Near midnight, it was time to make the rounds, gathering pump readings across the property. Armed with only a flashlight, they had set out from the main building toward the oldest one, a fair walk away. The area wasn't the safest part of town, but the user stated they weren't easily intimidated, having a large, confident presence and being used to working alone. Still, as the walk began, an uneasy feeling crept in. It wasn't the first time that sensation had come, but with work to be done, they continued on as usual. As they rounded the corner and unlocked the old building's door, the hair on the back of their neck stood on end. But the room was empty as expected, so they went inside, took the necessary readings, and turned to leave. As the door began to close, a figure appeared down the hallway, a woman dressed entirely in white, staring silently through the opposite doorway. Shock froze them in place, and for a moment, reality seemed to warp. Her face twisted and shifted, transforming into that of a fierce native warrior with glowing eyes. Then the figure morphed again, becoming a massive, snarling wolf-like creature. Before there was time to react, it lunged. The Op ran, screaming, as the beast gave chase, tearing at their pant leg. They stumbled, rolled, and somehow managed to regain footing, sprinting toward the main building. As the door slammed shut behind them, something heavy crashed into it from the other side. With their heart pounding, they locked every door and crouched inside, listening to the sounds of claws scraping against metal and growls circling the structure. Gathering what courage they could, they peered out the window, only to find the woman in white staring back at them. The police stayed until dawn, but by morning, everything was still again. No one else has seen the White Lady since. The memory remains chilling, yet the Redditor continues to show up each night, because, according to them, the job still has to be done. Another haunting tale was posted in a different subreddit detailing unearthly experiences at a water treatment plant in the Appalachians. According to Op, they didn't hear much, feel much, or see much out of the ordinary. But one of their coworkers was convinced otherwise. That guy claimed he once saw a man wearing blue jeans and a white t-shirt reflected in a door window at the main plant. He also said there had been a Union soldier and a Native American spirit at the secondary site. While the user never saw any of those supposed apparitions, they did hear something strange once. A woman's voice speaking softly at the secondary plant, right in the middle of the day. Just in front of that secondary plant, the Ohio Erie Canal had once run along where the highway sat now. In the hillside nearby, there was a small stone half-buried that looked like it could very well be an old, forgotten grave marker. Whether it was a burial site or not, no one really knew. Back at the main plant, there was another odd story. In the lab where water samples were tested, there was a sturdy sink, not one of those easy-turn faucets, but the kind that took some muscle to open and close. During midnight shifts, Op would often leave the water running so it would be circulating for the morning's testing. But more than once, they had returned to find the water shut off completely, even though no one else had been there to touch it. First built around 1874 to replace an even older one from the 1820s, the main facility itself stood on land that had once held the old county infirmary. The infirmary operated until the 1950s, complete with its own mortuary and a small cemetery near the river. Flooding, especially the Great Flood of 1913, had reportedly washed away most of the grave markers, and the burial records were later destroyed in a fire. Some scattered information still exists online, but much of it has been lost to time. So, while Op nor their coworker ever proved anything, the stories persist to this day. The coworker continues to be teased plenty for talking about his ghosts, but he still stands by what he's seen. And as for the operator, they never witnessed anything conclusive, but they stated that they continue to keep an eye out, just in case. Yet another post in a separate subreddit makes comparable claims. In the post, the Redditor stated while they didn't necessarily believe in the supernatural, they were open to the idea. After all, no one truly knows what happens after death. Regardless of what they believed, however, they had experienced a few things that were difficult to explain. The plant where they worked first began treatment in the early 1920s and was considered a historic landmark, believed to be the oldest operating facility of its kind in the state. During most overnight shifts, from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., Op was alone unless training someone new. Security systems throughout the property ensured that any unexpected visitors would trigger an alert. Despite that, several strange experiences stood out. Many nights while sitting at their desk, the user would hear faint music drifting from the next room. There was no radio, speaker, or audio source nearby, yet the music played softly in what sounded like old-fashioned big band or jazz, but it was too quiet to recognize a specific song. It tended to happen between midnight and 1 in the morning. Each time, When the operator got up to check, the music stopped. The last time it happened, as they stood, a low growling sound echoed close by, and the music cut off immediately. Until then, they had assumed their imagination was to blame. When they first began working nights, they also heard the muffled sound of a man and woman talking while standing at the sink. The voices came from the entryway behind them, though the words were never clear. Every time they turned to look, the voices fell silent. Early on, they dismissed it as fatigue or tricks of the mind. Doors were another matter. Frequently, heavy doors throughout the plant slammed shut in empty areas. Some could be explained by air pressure or wind, but others had been propped open with door stops and still managed to close on their own. A few times, unexplained scents filled the air, especially in the older parts of the plant. Once, while walking from the filter galleries into the main entryway, Op had caught the distinct smell of a woman's perfume, strong but fleeting. Stepping back into the gallery, the scent was gone. Security footage confirmed they were alone. On 2 separate occasions, they smelled the unmistakable odor of decay near the hallway to the bathrooms. The facilities were spotless, and the smell wasn't chemical or sewage related. It was the pungent scent of rot, like that of passing roadkill. After walking through the area once or twice, the odor would vanish. The plant used chlorine and other treatment chemicals, but none matched what they'd smelled, and no known reactions could have produced it. Only once did Op see something they couldn't explain. While outside in the parking lot, they noticed a large, dark shadow gliding quickly across the oldest section of the filter galleries. Because part of their job involved security, they investigated thoroughly, checking every level from top to bottom. No one else was there. The figure had been visible through the large gallery windows, yet there was no light source that could have created such a shape. Over the years, other employees, both current and former, had reported seeing figures in the windows on the upper floors, either the old office on the 2nd or the storage area on the 3rd. The user hadn't witnessed those themselves, but they didn't doubt the others. None were known for pulling pranks. Lights were another recurring mystery. Often, during nightly rounds, Op would glance up at the windows of the 3rd floor storage area to see lights burning brightly, but by the time they climbed the stairs to shut them off, the rooms would already be dark. The plant grounds had their own history. The facility was built on the site of a former county infirmary dating back to around 1874, which had replaced an even older one from the 1820s. The infirmary remained in operation until the 1950s and included a small mortuary and cemetery near the river. Severe flooding was said to have washed away most of the gravestones. Burial records had long since been destroyed in a fire, leaving only fragments of information behind. While Op initially stated he wasn't sure if he believed in the paranormal, his experiences were ample. However, it didn't seem to matter so much whether anyone believed them or not. In reality, even they weren't entirely sure what to believe. So while it may be easy for the mind to wander when working alone through the night, some events resisted explanation, as other employees had confirmed the same sounds and smells, and a few had even seen things for themselves. Often, Op would mention only vague details, only for someone else to return days or weeks later with an eerily similar story. These were just a few of the stories shared about water treatment plants, accounts from operators and night shift workers who claimed to have witnessed things they couldn't explain. Whether those experiences were products of tired minds, tricks of the senses, or something truly supernatural, no one could say for certain. Still, it was striking how many of these stories echoed one another. The same faint music drifting through empty halls, the same shadowy figures glimpsed in old buildings, the same inexplicable sense of perfume or decay lingering where no one stood. Across different towns and decades, the details varied, but the unease remained constant. So, the next time you drive past a quiet, nondescript treatment plant at night, the kind with a single light burning in the control room and the hum of machinery in the distance, it might be worth wondering what else lingers beyond the chain link fence. After all, many of these facilities were built on old ground, their histories stretching back through generations of workers and whatever came before them. And perhaps, If one listens closely enough, the next strange sound, shadow, or whisper in the dark might just be a reminder that some places never truly sleep.